want me to turn off the dome light?
Let's try turning off the dome light, see what that looks like.
Where's the...
No, that doesn't help at all.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just gonna have to deal with really crappy lighting in here. That's fine.
And me eating.
Yeah, and Josh eating. Before we start talking about Kingsglaive, for the two of you who are in here right this second. Oh, one of you, excuse me. So we saw Final Fantasy... Okay, Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15 several hours ago. And for those of you who also are not in the know, we're out in the Los Angeles general area this week, and otherwise we would have had to have driven from San Antonio to Austin.
So we drove even further.
So we drove 20 hours instead of an hour and a half to go see Kingsglaive. But we saw it at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and this was in Beverly Hills, and I'm semi-familiar with the area, kinda, sorta. I haven't lived out here in years, but I've come out here frequently and have family and friends out here. But Beverly Hills is just kind of its own kind of beast, and there's no parking anywhere, and we're all panicky.
It sucks.
We're all panicky about a place to park with only 2-hour paid parking, which seems...
For a 2-hour movie.
Which seems ridiculous, because the movie is barely over 2 hours long when you include trailers and credits and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a horrifying experience, just trying... Also, it suddenly jumps 50 cents in gas from where we are in Gardena, which is also within the LA area, and you go to Beverly Hills and suddenly, boom, 50 to 70 cents more expensive for gas out there. That's just ludicrous.
You are paying up the butt.
Up the butt. Yes, it is Del Taco. See, we do not have Del Taco in San Antonio.
Not anymore.
We had one for like a year, and then it went away. So this is... Del Taco is amazing. To us,
Del Taco's
anyway.
the bomb to me.
Yeah, I realize I'm sure to Southern Californians, people are just like... but
hey,
I love those chicken quesadillas.
From South Texas, much love.
I love those chicken quesadillas. Yeah, one in Tucson. I think we passed it, even.
We did pass it.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess that's enough kind of prep for now for how us getting to Beverly Hills to see Kingsglaive. Like, that's enough of that right there. So, yeah, we saw this thing, and it was, either way, it was going to come out before the video game was supposed to come out, because the 15 was originally supposed to come out on September 30th, and now it's not coming out until November 29th. So either way, this movie was supposed to come out before the game. I guess if you're watching us right now, there's going to be spoilers either for the movie or potentially for the game. I guess maybe.
I wouldn't say spoilers for the game, because it's all officially released information from Square.
It is, but if you're like just trying to avoid absolutely everything until you pick up the game, like maybe don't watch this. So maybe.
But I assume if you're watching it, you want to know.
So I was asking you while we were driving earlier. See, I've been paying attention to Final Fantasy 15 this whole time.
As you do.
And I know you really have not been doing so much. So I really cannot imagine watching this movie as someone who's just like, I'm gonna go watch a movie. I pick Kingsglaive, and having no attachment to the hype of Final Fantasy 15 coming up.
Well, see, I can thankfully say, having gone into this, that this is a movie I would have made that decision on, where... Hey, this looks interesting. I can go in and watch this. Now, admittedly, compared to you, next to nothing.
Yeah.
That having been said, as far as the story goes, I was able to follow it fairly easily. It didn't seem very... And we were kind of agreeing on this before we started streaming here. It's not a bad story, it just feels kind of dry. And Square has a problem with that in their storytelling sometimes.
Yeah, it's dry, and so much of this, because this is taking place both kind of prequel-ish as well as concurrently with some events during Final Fantasy 15. By the way, thank you for all the flying hearts here. Because that's happening like that, it's only focusing on the stuff happening within this one particular kingdom, and it's really political, and for that reason you might have Final Fantasy 12 flashbacks, and 12 is just super political. And
yeah, but this was only
12 had an okay story, but it's so dry, it was really hard for me to get
as far
through.
as politics go, with this movie, most of the politics you kind of already know going into it if you've been keeping up with it, which is there are two kingdoms at war. One relies on magic, one relies on kind of technology.
Well, okay, there's one kingdom, and then there's an empire. And the empire wants to take over the kingdom.
Okay, fine, whatever.
And they want to take
there are
the
two
kingdom's
forces
crystal.
vying for supremacy. The magical one is beating down on the magic one. And so in order to broker a peace...
Did they have trade negotiations? No, just peace treaties.
No, this was just peace treaties. Thank God there were no trade negotiations. Oh, excuse me. So in order to broker this peace, the Magic Kingdom, but not Disney, the Magic Kingdom has to send their... I guess he's a prince? Noctis?
Yeah.
The prince has to get married to... the princess from the technology kingdom, and if they
Empire.
get Empire, whatever, technology empire, not Apple, and their marriage will broker the peace. But the thing is, both sides are trying to play both sides, and that's all the politics you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty easy to follow. If you ask me.
The way they present it is really dry. Is all. However, clearly this is all spectacle, and it's just kind of like, no duh. You really expect that out of Square Enix, and
of course you do.
You've always expected that out of Square Enix ever since Final Fantasy VII. Really, they've just constantly pushed this envelope of, oh, what can our technology do? And sometimes the storytelling suffers for that. I think at the bare bones, there is a story to be found in Kingsglaive. However, I don't know that I was real super emotionally attached to the story they built. For starters, it starts out with really heavy exposition that clearly is like cut out of what is probably going to be the beginning of Final Fantasy 15, and they've just chopped it up real short, and it's like, I have no idea what's happening because she's saying a bunch of words. There's bad things happening between two kingdoms, I guess. Oh no, these people are blowing up. And then it finally cuts to 12 years later and the actual Kingsglaive stuff.
Okay, well, pretty much we should probably explain what Kingsglaive means.
Yeah.
For people not watching. For the Magic Kingdom, not Disney, the King's Guard, basically, is what's referred to as the Kingsglaive. Mm-hmm. I don't know, this thing's going to keep going in and out. I think you need to...
like, open the door like Brad does in all of his videos, right?
Is that... Okay, yeah. Okay, fine, so we're doing it that way. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of Nightcrawler having to think about where he was going, imagine he had a knife, and he throws the knife, and wherever the knife lands, that's where he shows up.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to strategize, alright, if I throw it here, I'm going to show up here, then I can throw it again and throw it somewhere else.
But again, that's exactly what Noctis is going to have to do in the game, so you're going to have to do that exact strategy.
Hey, I ain't worried about your friend. I'm talking about these guys in this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see a Noctis. I heard the name, but in this movie, it's not about him, it's about Aaron Paul.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you see Noctis twice, though.
Okay, child
Noctis, and then adult Noctis at the end, but you walked out, so...
I had a good reason.
Yeah, you had to go check on the car. But
Right.
but in any case, the people who are in the Kingsglaive, his group of specially chosen dudes who can do warpy ninja magic,
well, some of them were casting magic there at the beginning.
Some of them are like real legit mages, right? They're casting some kind of big storm magic. Fire or something. They're at war. There's a legitimate battle, and it's a really big, impressive battle with traditional Final Fantasy monsters, with behemoths, with Cerberuses, and then what appears to be one of the weapons from Final Fantasy VII.
That thing looks sick.
Like ruby or emerald weapon comes out of the clouds, and he's got the big shoulder armor, and it does the yes phone. Thank you.
From a different Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's from a different game. Although that game is represented, but one in the Magitech armor, and two, I'll get to another part later. It was kind of interesting that yes, they're using. Of course, they'd better be using traditional Final Fantasy enemies that just plain make sense. And then, but because the bad kingdom, or the Empire comes in with friggin' emerald weapon over here,
the technical Empire.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well, we gotta leave. The glaive has to get out of this battle, and, our main dude, his name's like Nyx or something.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I gotta save my friends before we evacuate the area, but...
So, just so we're clear on that, Nyx equals Aaron Paul.
Yeah,
That's who's playing him.
Yeah. But he gets in trouble for trying to play hero, so he ends up on guard duty watching a gate someplace. And there's this big... big issue within the kingdom of immigration. People don't like outsiders. There's a lot of prejudice.
I think that was very ill-defined, though.
I do feel like it was ill-defined. I feel like unless like maybe a couple of those people had an accent, maybe, and they all look like white people, so I was like, well, I can't tell that you're an immigrant. In this fantasy world, I would not look at you and think, oh, you must be an immigrant. I don't know
that's why I say it was ill-defined. You couldn't tell based off look, based off accent, because not everybody had an accent, and not everybody didn't have an accent, if that makes any sense. Like, the King's got an accent, some people in the Kingsglaive have an accent, but that's not the way you see that they're an immigrant.
Yeah.
So I don't get how that works.
There's no behavior of theirs that shows me that they're an immigrant.
There's no
either.
clothing. I mean, the Kingsglaive, like, they're wearing what the Royal Guard wears.
Royal Ninja Guard, yeah.
Yeah. Admittedly, I really like those outfits. I'm not gonna front. Those are cool.
They're kind of cool. But it's at that moment where the Empire comes in like, oh, clearly we won that fight, and now we want to talk terms of peace, and this is where we say, your son needs to marry the princess, and everything's gonna be hunky-dory, we'll sign this peace treaty, and they're both like, nah, somebody's playing somebody else.
Right.
And the king seems like a decent dude. And
the king, of course, played by Sean Bean.
King Lucius seems like a decent enough dude, whereas the emperor seems like a douchebag. That's just kind of how they're playing them. I mean,
obviously.
Yeah, they're playing them pretty straightforward. And the princess apparently has been held up in her room for the last 12 years, and she's not allowed to do anything. And oh, her mom is dead for some reason that's not really explained. It'll probably be explained.
No, they explained it up front. In the exposition.
But through a word dump of exposition, and we don't see it happen. Really,
we totally saw it happen.
It was such exposition that I can't. No,
Okay, what happened was, at the very beginning of the movie, when everybody's a little kid, the mom was attacked by technical Empire, and she threw herself in front of the princess's brother, who's somehow not a prince, and she gave herself up.
But see, there were just so many people in that opening sequence. I was just like, these are people and bodies, and people are dying, and I don't know who has what relation to who, and this didn't matter to me yet. That was edited really badly at the beginning of the movie.
I just think you weren't paying attention.
No,
they
saw
say...
it. Yes, they say it, but it's so... They just prattle on about just thing after thing after thing, and it's still just person after person after person. There's no way that's going to stick with me. It's
well,
just not.
That's you. That's you.
No, it's not just me. I guarantee it's not just me. Just because you're better at it doesn't mean it's not just me.
Okay, well, point being, what ends up happening is neither side trusts either one. The technical empire is like, okay, marry them off and we'll have peace, and it's kind of like they're doing this the whole time. It's like, why do you keep... Can you say that without doing this? You're doing it again. Oh, sorry. like you can tell they're being evil, and the king's like, sure, I'll trust you. Like, he's got his own plans, and they've got their own plans. And then when they actually bring the princess to the Magic Kingdom, not Disney, they play the Final Fantasy opening there for a second.
Yeah, but it's played really unceremoniously and like kind of echoey in the background. Like, maybe that's, oh, well, you're a princess, we should clearly be playing really royal sounding music. Here, have the Final Fantasy theme.
Yeah.
They should have done that when the title of the movie came up, and they didn't. And they just kind of jammed it in there in a really weird place and let it kind of fade in the background amongst other background noise.
But at least it wasn't so faded that you couldn't pick up on it.
I am glad it was there, but I also thought, you could have executed it a little better, I sort of felt. Also, we should probably mention that your stupid Magic Kingdom, so that you don't have to keep saying, oh, it's not Disney. It was called Insomnia. The name of the city is called Insomnia.
The capital city is called Insomnia. Like that thing you have when you can't sleep.
Which indicates that, yeah, it's a city that doesn't sleep, but, like, still, that's a really mean
that's a terrible name.
City.
Why would you call your city Insomnia? And I guess that's one of those cases of, all you guys over at Square in Japan, do you guys know what that word means? Do you? Because that word, you keep saying it, I don't think,
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I'm quoting it terribly. Point being, that's what happened. And you see signs on buildings saying Insomnia, and I'm like, I don't want to live there.
Oh man, speaking of that, God, the product placement in this movie is ridiculous. Uniqlo and Audi and Beats by Dre and there's a bunch of other stuff in there that I don't even remember. Like, Square Enix just totally, like, I hate to use the word sold out, because it's not like it's the first time they've done it, but this is definitely the worst that they've ever done.
This is full-blown hoeing out.
Because they, of course, for example, Advent Children used a very specific, I think, either Docomo or SoftBank phone. It was a very specific model.
I think it might have been SoftBank.
It was a very specific model of phone that you could buy, but now the product placement was just everywhere in this. And realize, too, it's in the game, too, because there's Coleman brand camping gear everywhere in the game. Every single piece of camping gear is Coleman brand camping gear.
But let's keep it focused on the movie,
all right. But, so yeah, like we said earlier, the kingdom is like, I don't trust the empire is like, I don't trust the kingdom. So even when this treaty is about to be signed, this is when the king is like, oh, I've sent Noctis away, so you never see Noctis throughout the core of the movie. And this is pretty much where the game is going to take place, because, yeah, he's being protected because they don't actually want to sign this treaty. They want to get him out of there, so that they're like, oh, sorry, the prince isn't here to have the wedding to begin with. And, that's where their stupid road trip is going to come into play.
Yeah, but basically what ends up happening is that the king figures out, they're planning an attack during the signing of the treaty, and then the technical empire's like, yeah, we're totally gonna do that. Even if you found out, we're still gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so the king sends out the Kingsglaive with Aaron Paul at the head, like, hey, go, they took the princess with them, because they don't want the princess actually hurt for some reason. Get the princess back, get her somewhere safe, and stop them from launching their attack. But that was the whole point.
But the princess still gets kidnapped, and then they still have to go in there and rescue her. But, some of their own dudes within the glaive
are traitors.
Are traitors and backstabbers. So even
literal backstabbing.
There's some literal backstabbing that happens. So even while they're rescuing the princess, they're still stopping the rescue of the princess. So this is where something really cool comes in. This monster shows up. And at first, I'm like, I don't know what this is. Oh, it's like killing people. It's grabbing.
It's got tentacles.
It's got tentacles. It's grabbing the princess. Oh, I can't. It looks like really green and Cthulhu-like. But then it busts out of this airship
into the open.
And I see he's all bright purple, and I see these gnarly yellow teeth, and I'm like, I know who you are. You're Ultros from Final Fantasy VI. You're the big octopus guy who's got goofy, quippy one-liners that you fight a couple of times as a boss, and you ruin the opera in Final Fantasy VI. Oh my god, I love Ultros! But really, he's kind of just there as, like, Otherwise, I don't really know why he was there. I don't know how he got there.
Like, you assume somebody casted him in or something,
yeah,
or summoned him, I should say.
That's really all you can guess, because otherwise, unless you're already a Final Fantasy fan, like that's a really cool, nifty piece of eye candy treat for you, but otherwise it's just, oh, what's this Cthulhu thing doing on this airship?
At least, we were saying before, back on the show, like, it would be nice if there was more callbacks to traditional Final Fantasy things, and I think I did see enough evidence of that here in Kingsglaive.
So. I really
there were the summons, there were certain attacks that looked familiar, there was a crystal,
summons.
A central crystal.
Crystal is the most important thing, really, but there weren't summons.
Well, then what do you call the behemoths on the battlefield?
Behemoths aren't summons.
They're not?
No, behemoths are monsters. They're just standard enemies.
No, wait, what am I thinking of then?
I don't know what you're thinking
not behemoth,
of.
My brain crapped out, keep going.
What part of the movie were they in? The beginning?
In the beginning. They were there in the...
in
the war.
There was Cerberus. There was a Cerberus there.
I could have sworn I saw some behemoths there.
There were behemoths.
I mean, not behemoths, some of the other ones there.
Marlboros? Because Marlboros are not summons. They're
we did see
enemies.
The Marlboro, the little funny Marlboro that was on an advertisement.
Yeah.
And then you did get your Chocobo, though.
Kind of. It's also an advertisement on the side of a van. But Chocobos are for real going to be in
Chocobo delivery service.
Yeah, but Chocobos for real are going to be in 15. So that's not a big deal. I don't know what summon you thought you saw. We saw Weapon, and Weapon is not a summon. Weapon is the thing in 7 that the planet is like, well, I got to protect myself now. I summon Weapon like it's Godzilla.
Bahamut. I thought I saw Bahamut at the beginning.
No, the thing you saw at the beginning was the summoning of the Weapon coming out of the smoke.
I could have sworn I saw it before that showed up.
Nah, there was no Bahamut.
Alright, I'll have to check it
No,
again.
there was swirly lightning and fire clouds, but there was no Bahamut.
Well, it's possible then I probably mistook another monster around that for it, but I want to double check.
Yeah, I don't think
Well, okay, point being then the kingdom attacks, or kingdom gets attacked by Technical Empire. It's a giant coup, people are getting shot, and then stuff happens, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it.
Okay, main character dude, Nyx, is all pissed off like, oh man, I've been backstabbed by all these people I trusted, and now he has to fight the dude who basically ran the glaive at the end of everything. I don't know whether...
He sold them all out, I guess.
He sold them all out. I told you before, if you don't want spoilers for this movie or for the game, then don't listen. So this is your last opportunity now. 1, 2, 3.
And here we go.
Okay, the king is dead.
the king sacrifices himself to get the princess out of there.
Yeah. And because the king is dead, nobody has magic anymore because the king gave the magic to the dudes in his glaive, so they can't do the cool teleporty magic anymore.
Right.
Well, apparently, there's this thing going on with a ring that he has.
A ring of power.
A ring of power. And
Sean Bean having a ring of power, take that as you will.
And other people are in there and they want it. And they're like, I'm going to just put this on. And then their arms burn off because they're not chosen to wear the ring. They're not worthy of having the ring.
But then Aaron Paul puts on the ring at the end, and it's like, well, you're only kind of worthy. And he's like, screw you. And they're like, okay, we like the cut of your jib. You're worthy.
But only so worthy. You're still going to die after...
You're worthy for about 2 hours.
You're still going to die after we're done with you.
Yeah.
So, okay. And he's like, you know what? I'm okay with that, so long as you get the job done. So there's... Once the Empire has stolen the kingdom's crystal, this removes this magical energy barrier that's been...
force field.
This force field that's been protecting the city of Insomnia.
From technical Empire. And so once the crystal's gone, the force field's gone, which means they're fully allowed to come in and take over.
But there's something that's called the Old Wall, and you're like, well, what the hell is that? And
they keep throwing it around the whole movie, like, what are you talking about?
Well, apparently this Old Wall has something to do with the Ring of Power, and what I'm having to interpret by putting together this movie with that hour of footage of Final Fantasy 15 they released, like, last week at Gamescom, is that there's 13 previous Lucius kings, alright, and they give their blessing or their power to the next in line to inherit the throne. And in the gameplay footage I saw, you playing Noctis, you're gonna have to go to the graves of all 13 of the different kings. This is kind of a tie to what used to be Final Fantasy 13. And
the leftovers.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to pick up their blessing from each of their graves. And so this ring, too, it looks like these are probably the ghosts of those 13 kings, and they have given their blessing to the king, and so somebody else puts it on, and they're like, well, you're not the king. Your arm's on fire. But they, once they realize, Nix, you're kind of okay, and we're gonna work with you for the next hour or two, then he's like, alright, then fine, bring up whatever the hell this old wall is. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, the old wall apparently are statues, I guess?
Well,
Godzilla-sized statues of what I'm assuming are these previous dead 13 kings.
Yeah. And the thing
again, this is me jumping in logic,
now,
largely.
As far as function works, we're having to figure that out. Visually speaking, it looks freaking awesome. Because you see these giant...
But I expect that out of Square Enix, though. I expect
Well, no, because what you end up
amazing.
seeing is that when Technical Empire comes in and they bring their they brought several weapons, these giant hulking things that are destroying the kingdom there. Now you've got these statues that have come to life wearing this rowdy armor, and they can do the warping technology, or the warping magic too, and they're attacking these things at the same time as Aaron Paul's attacking his boss, who turned on him, also doing the warping thing back and forth, since now he's got the magic, but only for like 2 hours. And it looks really impressive.
But that's, again, I expect that out of Square Enix. What is harder to get now out of Square Enix is good storytelling, which, I mean, they did an okay job with Kingsglaive. It's just that it requires being paired with the game, I feel, so hard. Well,
because that's more or less the movie. The princess gets away safe. Aaron Paul gives his life to make sure she got out okay. King's dead, Technical Empire's mostly taken over, and now you have to play Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, so you've had this unplugged for a while. I hope my battery is doing okay on my phone. So I feel like the movie ends on a downer, but with hope, because you're now gonna have to go play the video game. Also, the end credits roll, and then you see...
There is a post-credit.
There's a post-credit scene that is just Noctis and the other 3 dudes on their road trip.
The bro trip.
The road trip. And they're driving around saying, "Hey, so I hear you're gonna get married. When was the last time you saw
Now,
Luna
stop me if I'm
Freya?"
wrong. Is that not the footage that's already been shown?
It looks it's very, very similar to early trailer footage. And the camera pans around the car, and then it pulls away from the car, and the car sputters, and kind of, it sounds like it's going out. And if you saw the opening gameplay footage of 15, you see that you start your gameplay with them pushing the car because it just gave out.
Right.
So this starts like right where 15's gameplay is going to start. And that is not actually to say that the entirety of the movie is a prequel to 15, because if you've seen the gameplay, that first hour of gameplay that they have out there, there's a part where they say, "Oh, the princess is back in the city, we have to turn around and go back," meaning that some part of this movie takes place concurrently with the game.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say about that end credits scene, you can see a huge difference between the the cinematics, the rendering of the movie of Kingsglaive, and the footage they use of Noctis and his 3 buddies. Like, it looks like pre-rendered movie next to console game in-game rendered stuff, which looks good, but they don't look the same. Also, clearly their lip flaps were not mapped in English. They were still in Japanese, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of a thing you just let slip, didn't you? You just let that
See, I'll say
happen."
that much. If we're going to get into the technical aspects of the movie, I found that a lot of the time, like the core main 3 big names that they got, Lena Headey, Sean Bean, and Aaron Paul, they did fine in their roles. Everybody else, I think, sucked. You know, we've talked about this before, the whole thing of actors aren't voice actors. They're not really... But here's the reason I bring that up. 1, I don't think they were really doing a very good job with the script they were giving. And 2, you're talking about lip flaps. I noticed it especially with the King, like, the mapping on his mouth to try and make him look like he was speaking in time with Sean Bean didn't look right.
I felt like a female glaive who was a mage, and that I don't remember her name of. Her name was like Mice or Rat, or
I don't know,
something stupid like that. I don't even know. Her puppeteering in general, aside from the very opening fight sequence, which was clearly they spent the most time on it. It was the most well-rendered part of the movie. The rest of the time, anything with her face didn't look quite right. She looked like they were moving her arms in an animation computer studio rather than mo-capping her.
Yeah, because that was more like, what is the thing everybody uses to move Team Fortress 2 characters around?
Gary's Mod.
That's what she looked like. She looked like she was in Gary's Mod.
I don't know if she looked that bad.
I think so.
But there was, you saw the part in that opening fight sequence where clearly a mocap dude looked like he's been blown back by a monster or something, right? And you can see, even in CG mocap, they used wire foo on him.
Yeah.
That was really jarring looking.
The problem there was, and I can't believe they let this slide, is that he's moving like, if you're watching an episode of Power Rangers or something, he's on wires to show that he's being blown back.
Yeah.
But the problem is he's blown back before the actual explosion gets to him. That's the problem.
I don't see how you can make that mistake in a CG rendered movie.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Just wire foo in a CG rendered movie it's a weird thing to look at.
Like, you guys should have caught that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you didn't catch that. Mm-hmm. That having been said, so that's the technical portions of it. There's a lot of product placement there. The stories...
The composition was done by Yoko Shimomura. I'm pretty sure she did the
Kingdom
soundtrack
Hearts.
for Kingdom Hearts. She's definitely done some composition with Squaresoft or Square Enix before.
I didn't have any problem with the music.
Yeah, the music was there.
The story was easy enough to follow, but kind of going back to the voice acting thing, it kind of felt like people were dropping the ends of their sentences. And I don't know whether or not that was the recording mix or just the way they were saying their lines.
Well, because I'll tell you this much, and I told you this much earlier, but I watched, they've released the first 12 minutes of the movie for free on YouTube already.
Does that cover the fight?
That does cover the fight. So if you want to see what we're talking about with the CG wire foo in it, that's in it.
Yeah, okay.
And you can actually hear everybody's sentences pretty well in that. And when I was rewatching it here in the theater, I was realizing, oh, this doesn't sound as good as it did coming out of my computer speaker.
Now,
That's
admittedly,
weird.
to be fair, the theater we were watching it was a one-screen theater, and they did not have 4K. It was not Dolby surround sound. It was just...
No, it's an indie theater.
Yeah, it's an indie theater, so it's not nearly as well-equipped as some other theaters across the country have that are showing it. So maybe that was only a problem we had in our theater, but it was a problem we experienced.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the action was pretty easy to follow for the most part. The thing about the dryness that you bring up is that it's really hard to remember anybody's name aside from like the main three people that you talk to.
Luna Freya, but they call her
Freya,
just Luna sometimes.
Nyx, and King
Lucius.
And otherwise, you forget everybody else's name.
Yeah, I forgot everybody. I don't remember a single other dude's name. I really don't.
Like, even the dude who's, like, the Kevin Owens-looking traitor guy, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
The Emperor on the other side, he had a name. I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm. I think overall, I kind of wouldn't recommend this movie if you're not also really excited about Final Fantasy 15.
Well, admittedly, see, this is the way I feel about 15. I think all the media that they're putting out for it, like the anime shorts that they're doing and this, are actually really cool. And it does make me very interested in the story, but it's not doing it for me as far as I really want to play this game. I would rather watch it. And I think for me, it works better because I would prefer to watch something like this.
I still feel like the story needs to... I feel like the interaction that I have seen between the four dudes in Final Fantasy 15 is more engaging and makes me feel like, oh, these are real people. And I don't really feel like I felt that in Kingsglaive.
Well, especially...
that did not make me want to play the game, because if that was a representation of what I thought 15's dialogue was going to be, I wouldn't want to play it.
Well, I'll say especially in the one or two scenes where the Kingsglaive is having a meeting over stuff, that dialogue sucked.
Yeah.
Both the way it was written and the way it was spoken. Like, I didn't believe...
in some ways, the way it was staged.
The blocking.
The blocking.
Also, this was another problem. We noticed it early on in the movie, and they kind of sort of fixed it towards the end. Hardly anybody blinks in this movie.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when people... Because I caught it after a while, and I brought it up to you, like, that guy went that whole speech and he never blinked once. And then, your brain registers there's something not human, something not right about this, and then I started watching, how many times does everybody blink? And people on average blink more often than not and don't realize it when they're doing... Like, you blink several times already.
Yeah. Just
in me saying the sentence. And people would maybe blink twice in having to deliver this speech or soliloquy in the movie. And it's like, that's not natural.
Yeah.
Like, you guys should have caught that.
There's still Uncanny Valley to be surpassed. As amazing as it looks, there's still just... Like you mentioned about the lip flaps, about the blinking, about certain kinds of body movement that has not been mocapped. And to me, I feel like even the skin on people's faces, for as good as it looks, when their mouth moves, it does not... It does not move with the bone structure the way I feel like it's
not even bone structure, it's muscle structure.
Yeah, you're probably right. It felt like it was kind of stretching and warping right here at the jaw.
But not like a normal person.
But not quite like a normal person. That's just still something that technology still needs to figure out how to surpass quite
And they'll
properly,
get
but
there, but as far as this movie is concerned, it needed work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably as good as they were going to get, having to meet a deadline. And at least give Square Enix credit for that. They met a deadline.
They met one of their
They
two
met one deadline.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Let's see if they make their other deadline that they have pushed
back,
to.
yeah.
Really, I guess that's about it.
Yeah, it's a decent enough. Rent it.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel like you really missed out much not seeing it in theaters. I mean, granted, it's kind of worth it for that first fight and the last fight, but you'll get over it.
Yeah.
If you got a friend with a big enough screen, you'll probably be all right. You know, and with a decent enough sound bar, it'll probably be fine. But otherwise, I guess I wouldn't know until I actually play the game or watch you play the game how much this really does enhance the storytelling of 15. But I think it's okay. It's not terrible. It's just okay.
I think it's better than Advent Children, and for as much as people bitch and moan about the Spirits Within, at least I felt like Spirits Within was a relatively concise story that you could see the beginning and the end of, and Kingsglaive, you don't quite see the beginning and you don't quite see the end of the grand scope of what it is they're trying to
But as far as the
tell
self-contained
you.
story of, here's the political situation, here's the coup, here's some of the resolution that'll lead into the next installment, that much I think they did fine.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just, I just wish you'd written things a little better to where I could care whose name I forgot.
Yeah.
You know, and I could be like, oh, what was that? I don't know. But I think that just goes back to Square Enix not knowing how to name characters, anything that's not weird.
That's
or throwing
true.
darts at a board like, okay, it's this vowel, this consonant, and this animal.
This animal. Yeah. Also, this weather structure in the environment.
That too.
Okay. We better wrap this up. We gotta get back to where we're staying.
Yeah. So that was basically the idea on Kingsglaive. I'm not even gonna grade it really. It was just there.
It's there. Let's go. Let's hope the game actually comes out. Maybe it'll fill in the rest for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaving now. Thanks, everybody. Okay, see you later.
Night.
All right, bye.